Okay, we're live.
Hello.
No Cherie.
Oh, I'm not that far away. Hi, folks. It's good to see you again. Been a while, hasn't it?
Well,
A month
month
and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a while. Well, our daughter got settled in just out in California and is very, very happy there. Her little boy seems to be adjusting well. And of course, the husband's happy with the new job. And our oldest grandson, scored a goal on his soccer team.
Oh, he did. Huh?
He did.
I didn't know that.
He did. Yeah. So.
Well, hi. Can you hear us okay? Hello, Jesse. Hello from Connecticut, North Dakota.
Oh, look at that. We've got one from North
Dunn County Sheriff's Office.
We promise to be good.
Hope you don't get called out in the middle of this thing. All right.
So.
Well, I'll tell you a story while we're waiting for something to come in.
Something good?
You know, I was going to tell you yesterday, I called Tegan yesterday.
Yeah, it's our oldest daughter, for those of you that don't know.
Yeah, oldest daughter, the one that moved to California, and asked her about, school for Beckett.
Oh, yeah.
He went to school. And she told me, well, on Monday, it was his first day. And,
Tuesday.
Well, I talked to her on Tuesday. No, yeah, I talked to her on Tuesday.
Tuesday was the first day of school.
Tuesday was first day of school. She went, brought him a lunch. They bought him a lunch box. And
they eat lunch at the preschool, which is unusual.
They eat at the end of the thing, I think. And anyway, Tegan was there sitting with Beckett at the little table having lunch, and stuff.
She was worried that he might not be comfortable, so she was waiting.
Yeah, and so she's sitting there with him, and then he gets up promptly and says, "Hey, Mom, can I come talk to you?"
Come see this, Mom.
Yeah, come see this, Mom. And he directs her to the door where people are going in and out. And he looks out there for a little bit. He says, "Well, Mom, you can leave now." He opens the door and says, "You can leave now, Mom,
and
come
pushed
get
her
me,
out.
Come get me when it's over." So I thought that was pretty brazen for a 4-year-old.
And when he was ready to come home, he said, "Is tomorrow Thursday?" And she said, "No, it's Wednesday." He says, "Can you make it so I can come on Wednesdays too, Mom?"
Yeah, he liked it so much he wants to come every day.
But when I talked to her this morning, he didn't want to go.
Oh, he didn't want to go to school this morning?
He got up this morning and said, "I don't want to go to school."
Wow.
But he got there and he was fine.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. DC, New Hampshire.
Wow.
All right. Grant says we're loud and clear. That's good.
Great.
Basin, Wyoming, Alberta, Canada, Rexburg, another from Idaho, Atlanta, Las Vegas, and Chicago.
Chicago.
I actually been in Chicago a couple times. I actually got to eat at the original pizza place where they created the deep dish pizza.
He tried to bring a piece home. It didn't work as well.
No, it was good. It was very good, very good. All right. And Manti, Utah.
Oh.
Well, welcome.
I bet she knows my friend Bonnie.
Probably. So we're glad to be back. It was a pretty busy month with Family History Conference, BYU Family History Conference, and then
Education Week,
and then I had two presentations in addition to that. So it's was busy.
We were a little bit nutty.
Yeah. So we're glad to have back, and of course I'm always worried if we're going to have questions.
But we got them.
I noticed there's a few questions.
We've got them. It's great.
Feel free to ask some online as we're sitting here. You can bump out a question, or if you want me to elaborate a little more on
that. And we've been advertising this a lot. So if you've got new people, welcome. I'm glad that you were able to find us.
She gave me a licorice.
Do you know what? This is reverse. So
I know. I told
there.
You. We're opposite.
So sorry, it's an after dinner sweet I have to have. Okay, here's one from Pam Pratt, and she's got a 2-part question. She says, "I see that woodenvillage.org is no longer partnered with FamilySearch. The only thing I used it for was to see if 2 different deceased individuals were related. Is that possible feature being integrated into FamilySearch?"
We haven't decided. We've talked about it. It's on the list. There's been several that have requested that. They didn't tell me it's because Wooden Village kind of stopped. The only thing I heard was Wooden Village has stopped looking for ordinances and things. But well, I can't answer it. It's on the list. We haven't decided whether we're going to do it or not. It's certainly possible.
It's an option.
It's certainly possible. But.
Okay, part 2. It says on the sources page, after choosing chronological order, could you add a toggle button that would allow us to flip from bottom to top or top to bottom?
So I think you just have to, let me just double check this. I think you just click the column twice. I think you click the column. So let me go. So if you go out to FamilySearch.org, I'm going to go out here and try it here. Pretty sure you just have to click it and it flips. Go to a person here. Give me just a minute. Log it in as fast as I can. And go to one of my recents. And we got a lot of recent people that aren't my people. That's only because I'm looking at a lot of stuff. So I think you take custom. Oh yeah, I know what you're saying.
From oldest to newest and newest to
Yeah.
oldest.
They don't want the newest. They want the old. They don't want the newest. Yeah, I get it. My mouse is no good anymore.
His mouse just died. You won't be able to. Oh, you can see us. That's right, but we can't see you.
It's okay. It'll get there. It'll get there.
It'll wake up.
All right. So we're back over here.
Oh, there we are.
I'll make a note in my phone. I think that should be there.
Yeah,
Personally.
that seems like a logical one.
Yeah. Let me put a
Okay,
note here.
and she does say thank you to Ron family, and I assume that because his family is his engineers too, for all you do,
Yeah.
because they are tremendous individuals that work there. I'm amazed at the brain power there. This is from Susan. I was under the understanding that if you have a common ancestor, you could do the temple work for your family that have died without permission of the closest relative. However, in trying to do so, FamilySearch will not allow the information to go forward. I have called the helpline and told that this is not the case, that you still have to have permission. Please help me understand this new directive, and P.S. Thank you for all the time you put in on my behalf.
Huh. All right. First off, before I go there, I got to make sure I get a new email here on Facebook. Okay, so this is be able to sort sources by earliest and latest.
Well, A to Z, Z to A type thing, you know.
Okay, now let me tell you about how. What was that one?
What?
Remind me of the question again.
Oh, the common ancestor.
Oh yeah, no, why you couldn't go do the ordinance?
She says
you have
that,
to have permission.
yeah, she says, but they have a common ancestor.
That's not the point.
I thought so too, dear. I would have.
No, the issue is.
Here.
The issue is you should not. No, the rule is you should only do people in which you have a common ancestor.
And when she says
Okay.
that,
I understand, but there's also another rule called the 110-year rule.
oh, that's right.
And the 110-year rule says if the person is born at 110 years or less ago, then you have to get permission from the closest relative, from one of the closest living relatives. Doesn't matter which one. Closest living.
No, that says closet. Nearest. Yeah, we're having trouble spelling tonight.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, closest living relative. And that closest living relative is parents.
Siblings. He's having a really bad time.
I'm having a hard time writing tonight. Parents, siblings, adult child, spouse. Yes, that's it. Okay. So the rule is you can do them if you're closest living relative, but if the person is less than or 110 years old or less than 110 years, like for instance, it's 2019. If this person was born in 2010 or 19, what would that be? How come we can't?
1909.
1909. You're right on the edge. If they were born in 1910, you can't do it because they're under 110 years rule. Oh, they're in the 110-year rule, and that says if within 110 years, if you are not one of these closest living relatives, meaning a parent, a sibling, an adult child, or a spouse, then you have to get permission from one of these people, from one of the parents, from a sibling, from an adult child, or from a spouse. Okay, that's what happened. Is you were doing nothing necessarily wrong because you were related, because you had a common ancestor, but you hit the 110-year horizon. And the reason why that 110-year rule is there, and by the way, that rule's been there a long time.
I've used it.
Well, even before you used it,
Yeah.
it was around, but people didn't always pay attention to it. Now we enforce it. The purpose of that is if that family, so 110 years means that they're probably a grandparent, right? Or maybe a great-grandparent.
At
110 is probably a grandparent.
Great.
No, could be a great-grandparent, a great-grandparent, not great-great. You know, if your grandfather lives to 80 or 90, right? So it'd be a great-grandfather, I guess. Be a great-grandpa.
My granddad's a great-grandpa at 87.
So because of that, then you have to get permission. And this is so that that family of that person has the opportunity to do those ordinances for someone they probably knew. And that's the reason why. So that we used to get phone calls from people that said they're very upset because somebody took their mother or their father or their grandfather to the temple and it was some stranger or whatever. It was a related person, but it wasn't close enough to know them, and they knew them. So the 110-year rule is there to help the family of that person have an opportunity to take it first. Okay. Once they're out of the 110-year rule, they're older than that, then we don't have that limitation. Okay.
Okay. This is from Tina. She says, I have a recommended task suggestion for my in-law relative. And she's given the name and PID number. I won't repeat it. The only ordinance that remained available was to his sitting spouse, to his other spouse, who shows no relationship to me. My relative is his other wife, Lillian. Oops, sorry. Does his marriage to Lillian, my relative, make him also my relative and therefore authorizes me to complete all ordinances that pertain to him, including sealing to his unrelated to me spouse, or is this some kind of glitch in the system?
No, you're welcome to do that. You can do that. So if you're related, so I thought it kind of said that she was related to the husband.
Mm-mm.
She was related to the spouse, to the first spouse.
Related to a wife.
To one of the wives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. You can do
wife.
that. You can do the one you're related to. You can do her husband, and you can do his other spouse if you want, because we want you to do all of the ordinances for your related family. So since he had that person, now you can't do the ordinances for that. You can't do the individual ordinances for that
For the spouse.
for the husband, because you're not related to him. But you can do the sealings.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about order, since you just go ahead and do them, and the family in the future will take care of that. When finds somebody who's related to them, will take care of that other.
I haven't seen any questions yet. Oh.
So you can do. Wait, I need to make sure it's clear. I just realized I said something that might be.
Warren, I really like your comment, but yeah, that's really a rotten one. He says, don't you just hate it when the dry erase board spell checker is broken?
Yeah. So here's you coming up to spouse 2, and here's husband, and he has a spouse 1.
And
okay, so this is the situation. I think I misspoke. So here's the situation. You got, I wrote it down too long. I'm gonna tilt this thing a little bit. Sure, hold on that.
I will hold it.
There you go. So here's the spouse, the husband, and the other spouse, and you're over here. This is where you are, and you're
They're
related.
to one of them.
You're related to that one, let's say. You can do this person's ordinances, and this person's ordinances, BCIE. And then you can seal him to all of these people, and you can seal him to the parents, but that's as far as you can go, okay? Because you can take care of this family, which is those two, the kids, okay? That makes sense? So I think I said that you couldn't do the husbands in normal, BCIE, but that's not true. You can do them all. You do that whole family, and you can seal him to his parents, but that's as far as you can go. Can't do the parents or any siblings or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Does somebody have any other question yet? Do you ever cancel ordinances done by unrelated people? Yes, we have done that. We've also canceled ones that were done inappropriately, like 110 rule breaker, broken. Somebody got it and did one that was under 110, and the family notifies us, and we'll invalidate those ordinances and give it to the family. So we have to do that. We don't do that very often, but we do that. How can we share with a relative just baptism confirmation? Nieces and nephews are anxious to help, but they live in Australia, not close at all. Okay, so Janice, there's no way to do it right now in the system. We hope to enhance the share with family and friends that allow you to do it by an ordinance. But in the meantime, let me tell you how to do it. Now, unfortunately, it won't have their name on the card, but you can print the PDF. You can create the PDF for the B and the C, and then email them the PDF. And then they can print it, and it'll have your name on it, so it's not as great, but at least they can do the ordinances. Okay, so that's one way you can do it right now. Eventually, we'll have the share with family and friends that's there, not do a transfer, and it'll only do send, and it'll only send the ordinances you select, like you do sharing with the temple. But that's not on the docket till early next year. So
he keeps telling us those things.
I don't know.
Here's a question from Michael. Ancestors with tasks on the app show me people I don't think I'm allowed to do ordinances for, prompting me to do them. Is this unintended, or should I do them?
Well, you have to be wise. If you don't think you're related, you shouldn't do them. Now, the reason why it's showing up on the app is because the way tasks work on the app is they use anybody that has been cached on your app. So if you've gone in and done some work for somebody else, or somebody else says, hey, could you look at this PID, or hey, have you seen this? And you do that on your mobile app, then that's cached in the app. So you should be, if you recognize that it's not somebody you're related to, you can go in and say view your relationship in the app. Then if you don't, then you need to not do them because you're not related. So we don't at least not at this time, we don't verify that you're related on the mobile app. It's not like, and even on the system, we're not doing it either, but you're walking up your line and down your line. So because of the task, they're showing you ones that are there. If you go on the website, we have a recommended task as well, but they're crawling your line, and so they're not getting ones that are outside of your right to do.
Okay, this one's from Laura Lee, and she says between the 9th of July and the 22nd of July, FamilySearch touched the ordinance reservations. Now on the ordinances tab for an individual, any ordinance printed or shared now shows the date between those, the 9th and the 22nd. The temple list wasn't impacted because printed or shared dates don't appear there. What happened, and will it be fixed? And why can't we see the correct printed shared information?
Yeah, something happened. No, we haven't fixed it yet. Yes, we want to fix it. And it was unintended. So what's happening is, as we're rewriting the temple and reservation systems, we're not done yet. It's going to be another 6 months probably. As we're rewriting it, there's been cases where we introduced problems for the client who displays stuff. And what's happened is the client was displaying the last modified date in the past. It just happened to always be the same value as printed or reserved. But then when the temple reservation team updated it for the new stuff we're doing, They changed it, and they didn't tell the client, and then so it was broken, and they were still displaying this newer date, so they don't match. So yes, we're going to fix it. The team's been busy with some other things that were a higher priority, and we hope to have it fixed in not too distant future. But in the meantime, everything still works. You can still print. You can still go to the temple, even if the date's off. Sorry.
Okay.
Once in a while, we break things.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
They just don't tell you that. Anyway, this is from Curtis. This says beta.familysearch.org is a handy site for practicing skills and preparing presentations. Are there any restrictions or precautions we should be aware of? And can we use it to practice creating bogus accounts? Does it work for memories? Anything else that we should be aware of?
Beta is fine. People can use it. There are times in the year when beta will not be available. We try to keep it up all year round, and except between Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving to Christmas. So between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we usually take down beta. We update it with all the data from production and bring it down. Memories is not complete in beta. You can upload memories in beta, and you can see memories, but if you've put memories in production, odds are not all of those memories will be in beta, because the size of the disks for beta are much smaller than the disks in production. And we don't want to pay for the extra disks. So other than that, you're free to use it. There will be some oddities now and then, because beta is where we put in the new stuff when we're testing before we actually release it to production. So there may be occasions when you see changes happening in beta, and it's like, oh, this doesn't look like the real site. It's something's changing or something doesn't work quite right. But for the most part, it's up and running and works just fine most of the time. And you're welcome to use it. You're welcome to create new accounts there. Your existing FamilySearch account will work in beta. You don't have to create a new one for yourself. But if you want to practice or see what it's like to register and things, you can do that. So take screenshots.
Very nice.
I sometimes use beta for my screenshots for my presentations, because I don't want to mess up things in production.
Well, he got caught by somebody that was a relative that was using the same relative once
Yeah,
as an
that's
example.
true. I made a change, and then he said, "What are you doing? It looks weird." And I said, "I'm doing it for my presentations."
He got a
And
nasty
he said,
gram.
"I do that too," on the same person.
It's the same ram.
So
So, anyway, this is a question and situation from Cindy. It says, I'm getting really frustrated with the hints being added to my Danish genealogy that do not fit in my family tree. Many names may be similar, but because of I don't know how to say it, patronymic naming system, they do not work. That said, there isn't enough work done to verify the hints, so I'm spending many, many, many hours trying to sort it out and research each family to separate who belongs where. Many names are the same, but they live in completely different parts of the country, which is highly unlikely. And I have one right now that has 22 children and possibly 4 different families. I know it doesn't make sense to me either. I'm trying to find records to prove that they aren't my tree. Is there anything that I can do to help stop this?
yeah, unfortunately, that's the real unfortunate thing when everybody is called Peterson and Jacobson and Sanderson and all that kind of stuff, and everybody had similar names and similar first names. It happens outside of Danish records, in other places, but unfortunately, nothing you can do really right now, other than work on getting them separated and make sure you put not a matches between them. We want to, we haven't made a final decision, but one thing that I would like to do is make hints more strict, meaning more exactly like the person in the tree and less more similar. I guess I should say they're going to be more similar than just similar, basic similar.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
More strict.
Uh-huh.
I want to do that because of these kind of issues, but it'll still be tough because those languages are so close and everybody has very, very close names, but we're working on it.
I have Danish too, so I understand.
So I'm sorry that it's a struggle. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I think I would like to do, is to make the hints a little bit more rigid and strict and tight. Then people who are just being helpful in the tree, they would do less damage, because we know the hint is right, is perfect. And so you'll probably be happy because they're helping you, rather than hurting you because they're mixing in things without paying attention to location and stuff like that. So I'm sorry, I apologize. We do want to fix that. It's going to take some while to do, though, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Get all your family to help you separate them out.
This is from Michael. It says, my shared names are getting done a bit at faraway temples. Is this a new policy to share with all the temples in place? How do you avoid the language issue for names in other alphabets? You know, people won't be able to say them. I am glad that the wait times should go down, and I hope it goes well below the 3 years for all ordinances.
Yeah, so the way that when you today, which is going to change in the future, but today when you share a name to the temple, it stays in your temple district unless another district needs it. But when we introduced Ordinance Ready, what we did is we're trying to open up those ordinances that are in the temple list and allow those who are related to get those ordinances. So it is possible that when somebody came in and they did an ordinance ready, we look at all the people in the temple list and find somebody who's related to them, and then we pull it out and we hand it to them to go do that temple work. We also, in our ordinance ready, if we can't find a related name, then the last resort is to give them a name off the temple list that they may or may not be related to. We only check 15 up and 15 down, and we hand it out there. That's probably why you're seeing more ordinances done that were shared with the temple in other temples. And our plan in the future, which we expect to complete about the middle of the year or so next year, middle a little later after that, is that there will be no holding of ordinances within any district, any temple districts, but that it'll be just one global list for the entire world, and any temple will be pulling the oldest name first. Now, as far as languages, you are correct. It would be very difficult for us to read Chinese, for instance, or to take Korean or Vietnamese names, just because there's really no good romanization for that for some of these. And so our plan is we don't take those names and give them to another temple that doesn't understand them until we have the technology, which we're working on, that can convert from one language to another language phonetically. We have some of that already in several languages, but not all the languages that are in the temple or that we support. So we'll start sharing as we have the ability to match up those languages. So what you'll see basically is a Thailand card or a Vietnamese card eventually go to somebody in Salt Lake potentially, but it'll have an English version of the name that you can pronounce phonetically, and then it'll sound like what it would sound if you read it in its native language, or at least the best we can.
Yeah.
Not that the sound won't be right, but how we make the sound.
It's nice that the Lord knows, though.
But yeah, Lord knows who you're talking about.
And that's the thing that counts.
Terry says the ordinances that are stuck in the system, is that fix going through soon? So Terry, what Terry's referring to is, because of the way the original temple system was built, there were situations when an ordinance, baptism confirmation would get done, but the endowment wouldn't be passed on to the system to be done, and it gets stuck. And it can happen in any of the places, in baptism, confirmation, endowment, initiatory, endowment, all of those, it could get stuck anywhere along that way. And we're not necessarily working to fix that right now. That's because we're rewriting the whole thing, and when that gets finished, which is hopefully sometime by middle of next year, those problems will all go away, and everybody will be moving along. And because we're changing the way the system works, instead of pushing it to the next ordinance, we'll have that software go and look and say, I want an endowment, and then that'll pull it. So by pulling it, it's always trying to grab the oldest one to move it along. And so we're just changing the whole technology object model, the way we work.
Yeah.
And so it won't ever have that problem again. But that's going to take us another 6 months or so to get done. 6 or 9 months.
It's not the millennium.
Yeah, it's not going to be millennium. We'll get done before then, unless the Lord comes earlier than
I don't know, but
we
he
think.
sure loves that phrase. Sometime before or after the millennium.
Yeah, I do.
It's one of his favorite phrases. So, any
Okay,
questions
let's
there?
see. Can a team add a tab for the Learning Center to the main pages? Well, it's a wiki. The research wiki, you can go create pages in the research wiki. I'm not involved in monitoring those pages or if there's a particular structure to it, but it's a wiki, so you should be able to go create a page and use it maybe as a list of pointers to other places if that's helpful. So I would give it a try and see what happens. You can go create the wiki page and start entering stuff in and see what happens. So it's supposed to be able to allow people to create and edit pages. Okay, let's do one over there, and then someone's asking me for the current big tree size, so I'll go look that up and see if I can
Okay. This one's from Laura Lee. She says, I've noticed that sometimes a person will have a death date on their person page, but the temple list shows only the word deceased. This is not consistent, as sometimes both person page and temple list show a death date. It doesn't seem to be a delay, either, as there are death dates that were added late. She gives some examples if you want to read them later. She says, one reason that I would like this is the death dates to show is that if they exist, it's one way to make sure that those that have died before the age of 8 aren't getting unneeded ordinances done. So I guess it's more of a situation than it is a question. But is that something that's supposed to happen consistently, that there's supposed to be?
No, those should all look the same.
Hmm.
So I'm going to have to give me that number.
431.
Okay, let me look at my thing here. Number 431. So I'll have to go look at the.
Okay, Larly, he'll get back to you on that, and he'll reread this question because you've given us some PIDs and things like that. If you can,
Yeah, I'm going to go look at it. Okay.
So, you want me to read the next question?
Let me know.
Okay, here's Leslie. She says, I've started looking into a very old cemetery in El Salvador where several of my family's generations have been buried. The tombstones and grave markers are now non-existent, and so I can only rely upon the records that the cemetery has kept. When I asked for certain records, the worker said he was not authorized to open the books because of how old they were. Is there any way for FamilySearch to get in there and digitize those records before they completely fall apart?
I have no idea. I'm not in charge of that.
They're trying to do it, but it just all depends on arrangements with the governments and.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'll take your. Did you put in where?
She said El Salvador, but that's
Now,
it.
an old cemetery in El Salvador is not sufficient for me to know where. So
send me
an email, ron@familysearch.org,
with the name of the cemetery.
with the name of the cemetery,
and the city and stuff.
Yeah, then I can pass that on and see if that's something they want to pursue. We try to find the most valuable records in a country first. So I suspect El Salvador, we have other ones that would be higher priority. Censuses and things like that. Okay. So Terry is asking for the largest single big tree in FamilySearch. It is now, as of August the 27th, 498,980,400 persons in the tree.
Wow. That's grown.
That'll be something when it gets 500,000.
Yeah. Well, that's even grown since Education Week.
Yeah.
So remember, it wasn't.
Education Week, it was
460.
489.
400. Oh, okay.
So it's grown, almost 10 million in the last 2 weeks.
That's
3
amazing.
weeks. 6, 7, no, that's 2 months. 2 months. Okay. What's the next one?
Here's one from Sonia. She says, I have Finnish ancestors, and I'm wondering, is it worth my time to travel down to Salt Lake from Logan to do research on them, or and same thing, they've reached a block in the UK and wants to know, is there any advantage to going to Salt Lake to research?
Well, I don't know. Somebody out there will have to tell us whether it is worth for what kind of records.
Just
Finish.
well, finish and then something in the UK. So I don't.
I suspect UK would be a good idea to go down to Salt Lake City. But as far as finish, I don't know. Anybody out there who knows how
Finish records.
how finished records are or Finnish expertise is in the Salt Lake City Family History Library. If you know, then just comment out there on this page. I'll see it, and then I'll mention it if I see one. So Grant asked, what is the status of this tree sync feature between MyHeritage and FamilySearch? My understanding is it's working. We have several people who are using it. As far as I know, I don't know if it's out of beta yet. That's a MyHeritage choice, but I believe that people are using it, and it seems to be working just fine. So I'd go over to MyHeritage and ask them about it and see if you can be part of it if that's what you'd like.
Here's a simple one. I think
Monique says a learning center is different than the wiki. So you probably have to call. I don't know who to call. I'm gonna have to go look at that one.
Okay, that's one of your questions.
Let's see. So we have what number was that one? The one about getting a page because it's hard to find. It's buried.
It was off of your questionnaire thing.
What was it?
It wasn't off mine. It was one that you read off the screen.
Tab. Can the team add a tab to the Learning Center? Let me write this down. Excuse me. Tab to the Learning Center. I know who to send it to. To the main pages.
Oh, yeah, put down the name.
No, I know who it is.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah, I know who to give this to. Okay.
Oh,
I'll pass that on. David asked, I received an email from FamilySearch last week that said you have received family temple names. I don't know the person who requested me to do the work. Is this new and how is it working? I don't know the person who requested me to do the work. Oh, so this is a campaign that they've run a couple of times. I don't remember them doing it in the last couple of weeks. So it may have been a little while ago, but what they do is they go look at people's reservation lists who have larger than 100. I thought it was larger than 300, but when I asked them about it a couple of weeks ago, they corrected me that if it's 100 on a person's reservation list, they will go and figure out account holders, members who have an account on FamilySearch that are related to that person on their reservation list. And then they ask you, what's supposed to happen is they ask you if you'd be willing to help somebody who has with their ordinances for a relative of yours. And if you said yes, then what they do is they go send a message to those who own the reservations on the reservation list, and they said, are you willing to share your ordinances with people who are related to them to help you with your reservation list? And if they say yes, then it sends them to a screen where they show all of the reservations from their list that the team has been able to match up with as related to that particular ancestor. And then the person can choose yes or no to share it with you. And if it does, then it's shared with you. So I think that when they share it to you, you get to know their contact name. So you can certainly reply with a message and say, hey, tell me how you're related to this person. I'm the third cousin, twice removed or whatever, and start a conversation and figure out how you're related to the person who shared it to you. You may not be related at all to the person who shared it to you, but probably so, since they're probably crawling around the same big tree anyway.
You may not know it, but yeah.
And then you can find out how you're related to them. Okay, so let's get this one off the list there.
Okay, this comes from James. He says, how can a non-member share his tree, including living persons, with his family?
We don't allow sharing of living people at the moment. That's a project that I've talked about for the last couple of years, but we're finally getting ready to finalize our approach to it. And that's called shared family groups is what I'm calling them. We haven't implemented that. It'll probably won't be till sometime late next year before we get to the point where we can consider sharing living PIDs, living persons, living PIDs. But until then, what I would recommend you do is get your, was it non-member friends or something?
Non-member.
A non-member family. They can just get in and they can add the living and they can add the dead. And then if they want to share that with others, then they can share the dead with them or invite them to come in and enter their living people and connect to the same family line, just like all the rest of us do, where we enter in our living and then we cross over into the dead, and then our relatives, my brother and them, they enter in their living and tap into the same line, and then we work together on the dead so that we all use the same PIDs there. So that's what I recommend. We don't have the sharing of living yet. That's going to come, but not for a while.
Okay. This is from Sherry, and she says, this is not a question, just a positive comment. I have been listening to your last few recordings where people said they've been getting too many messages about completed ordinances. I love getting them, and when I get them, I click on each name in the message and to see if there are new record hints for the family.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that many have new record hints.
Mm-hmm.
Missing parents, spouse, children have been added because I have revisited these people. Because of Ordinance Ready, many of the names I have shared with the temple are being completed. Thank you for this addition to FamilySearch. Looking forward to the time when patrons can request specific people from those I have submitted to the temple instead of messaging me to ask if I will release them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah.
The little comment there. Does she have a comment? No, nothing. Well, that's it right there.
Right there.
So yeah, that is true. That if a lot of times when you do Ordinance Ready, and especially if it pulls somebody off the tree, as opposed to out of the reservation list or the shared temple list, it actually can be a very good clue to say, hey, there's most likely more persons that are missing. There's probably people missing in that particular area of the tree, because it's most likely, the main lines and stuff are usually done, and so it's going off into the descendancies and stuff, and oftentimes there'll be missing parents and missing people and all that stuff, and hints available. So something to consider as you get an ordinance ready. You could then go and look at that person, and you'll probably find some hints, and that will add new people and be able to continue on in that work there. Terry Manning's asking, well, he's drilling in now, man. He's drilling in.
Uh-oh.
If the temple list runs out of names for doing a particular ordinance, will the system automatically pull from unfinished extractions? The answer is yes. It will continue to do that. We don't hardly pull any of that at all. That's why we say, right now we really don't use any extractions. Once in a while, we'll have maybe one or two things that get pulled, but it's pretty small. And so, 99.999% of everything is coming from people's family names that they've submitted to the temple. It says, a week ago, my female initiatories were being completed 3 days after I submitted them. If you had to run out, where would you get things? And the answer is from the extraction list. Yeah, initiatories, especially for women, are a particularly desirable ordinance right now. Yeah. It's really interesting. We can see trends happening based on what ordinances are pulled from the temple, and initiatories are popular right now because you can get them done quickly. It's not a lot of prep and waiting to get in.
That's like our daughters.
You don't have all the extra clothing and things.
The mothers of these young kids wanted to still get to the temple, and they can do that very easily.
Yeah, much quicker
than doing an endowment.
You do 3 to 5 pretty fast, so the time frame's pretty limited. So it's popular because it's less time consuming.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's what's going on. Okay.
This is from Kathy. She says, what should we do with duplicate hints for the same record for the same person? For existence, and she's giving you another PID number, has 5 to 6 hints for the same marriage record. How do I handle these duplicates?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. We're frustrated by that too, and it's difficult for the records team to detect these and then remove them. They would have to actually unpublish the collection, remove the duplicate images. They're not duplicate images. They're actually different images, but of the same exact record, because it was in a different county or they had multiple copies in that particular county. And it's actually significantly time consuming to do that. So, you know, we've talked about a couple of solutions for that, and it'd be good to know on Facebook what you think about them. One option that we're thinking about is a collapse capabilities. You could say these 5 or 6 source references are really the same source, and then you just pile them on top of each other and they'll collapse into one source. And you could click it to open to see all of them. Maybe one picture is better than another picture. That's one thing we're thinking about. But they'll continue to show up as hints until we can get this solution solved. And we, we're not going to be able to get to that anytime soon. I don't know when they'll be able to work on that. But they are aware of it. You're not the only one who's mentioned this to us, and we're frustrated too. You know, all those of us working in a tree, and lots of others are frustrated by that same thing. So Gary says, when we stopped from ordering microfilm, they said all film will be digitized by 2020. I don't remember them saying done by 2020. What I remember them saying, it would be approximately 5 years. And I don't think we stopped microfilm ordering 5 years ago. Doesn't seem like it was in 2000. When would that have been?
5 years old? 2014.
Seems like it was after that, but and I don't know where they are. I'll have to ask that. I'll have to ask what is the projected date for digitizing the remaining records. Estimated date for completion of digitizing microphone.
Jarrett's here. Go get her. That's our early warning system. She works about 4 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
She's had a rough time though. It seems like all of our smoke detectors have decided that they all need new batteries at the same time. But the problem is they don't start chirping until like 11:30 at night, when we're all ready for bed, lights are off.
Yeah.
And she is so scared of them that she hides under the bed and stuff. So, oh, did you just hear it?
Yeah, I heard it.
One just went off.
Okay, Sherry, what's the next one?
All righty. This is from Jessica. It says, in the Memories app, why can we only tag using a circle, even on documents? On a computer, it uses a rectangular on documents, which is so much easier when tagging names. Also, I love the ability to rearrange the order of memories in the album using the Memories app.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that's working well for you. The reason why the Memories app is still using the circle is because we haven't updated it to do the square. We updated the website to do a square when they changed the portraits. And so we updated it to use the squares everywhere except for the portrait. And they just haven't done that work in the mobile app. So that's the only reason why.
No one here. You got one over there.
Let's see. I'm looking here.
Here's a short one though, while you're looking.
See, ordering ended September 17th, somebody said. So that would be 2022 or something like that. If
What
that's
year?
right. 2017.
Oh, 2000. Yeah, you said the 17th of December.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever. Okay. This is going to put Bryce Roper on the spot if he's listening. At Roots Tech, Bryce Roper, if I remember correctly, said there will be a new feature where they will let you know that a source has some names not yet attached to the family tree. Is it active yet?
No, it's not active. You'll know if it's active because you'll see it every time you go look at the source list. We were actually reviewing it just a couple of weeks ago. He demoed it to the organization and it seems like they had a little bit more finalized work to go. There was some issues.
Was it Bryce?
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
So there's issues here because let me tell you where some of the issues are. There's going to be cases, if we turn this on, what will happen is we'll say, yeah, there's two people that need to be put attached to this source. Well, the people that in there will be something like a border. So you wouldn't attach it like a brother, a sister, or a child, or a spouse. It's a border. So we don't have any place right now for you to add a relationship that's a border relationship. And so that's part of the issues that they're examining to see if there's a way for them to only show when it's selected types of relationships, like parents or spouses or children, and they're going to have to go back and see if that's something they can do. So that's where they were at. It looks good. It jumps to the source linker and has you do that. It seems to work just fine, except in these cases where it's not part of the family. It's not a parent or a spouse or a child. And so it gets a little wonky there. So that's why they're not releasing it yet, and I don't have a date for it. Does the sharing with the temple process apply only to USA? I am noticing that a lot of our Aussies, when sharing with a temple, ordinances are being done outside of our country. In fact, from all different countries. Is there a date that you expect global temple sharing will happen? Yeah, the global temple sharing is not going to happen until sometime first quarter next year. So I would guess the reason why these are happening all over in other temples is because they're either older ordinances that have been shared with a temple some time ago, or the people that are requesting them are actually related to your Aussie family. So that's what I would guess.
You want another one here?
Yeah.
This is from Linda, and it's talking about merged records. And she says, if an ordinance was done on an old PID that has since been merged with another, assuming the ordinance really needed to be done anyway, we know it's valid and it will go on to the new PID. However, if for some reason the old and newer PIDs get unmerged, does that completed ordinance go with the PID that was on the old printed card, or would it be left on the record of the current PID?
Okay, okay, this is a good one, and we'll probably end with this one. But I will go through this carefully so you understand exactly what's going on. What are you looking at?
I just didn't realize that much time had gone by.
Yeah, it goes by fast.
Wow, when you're having fun.
When you're having fun, it goes by fast.
Yeah, I like these people.
I gotta clean this board next time.
I will clean it before the next go around, and hopefully I will get the spell checker fixed, but I don't think so. He just has problems all the way around. I want you to know I have such a good time with this guy. So.
Okay, here we go. I explained two parts. One is what happens when you merge and ordinances. So I'll just do that. I won't make multiple of them. There's usually multiple ordinances, of course, but the behavior is the same, whether there's multiple ordinances or not multiple ordinances. So if P2 is merged into P1, what happens is we add ordinance 2 to that person. Okay? Notice ordinance 2 is sitting on this person, and it's also on this person. But that's okay, because this person here is going to be archived away, and you won't see that person. Okay? So now you don't see this anymore, because it's not in the search, and it doesn't show up in the tree, but you see that ordinance right there that was hooked onto it. Now, if this person here was unmerged or restored, then all we do is we come up here and we erase this one, we delete that from that person, which essentially puts all of the ordinance, all the O2 ordinances back on this person, okay? Because this person will come back, it'll have a reference to ordinance 2, and the reference to ordinance 2 here is now removed. So essentially, the answer is, whenever something's merged, it gets put on the survivor. When anything gets unmerged or restored, then it goes back to its original position. I guess we can do one more.
Okay, great. This one comes from Lynette. Is there a way to put all the information my parents have done on Ancestral Quest onto FamilySearch? Right now, they are going person by person. I'm afraid something might be missed. Or is it just going to take forever?
All right. Well, first off, we want you to be careful. Ancestral Quest has the ability to synchronize with FamilySearch. So what I would recommend you do, you can probably get some help from a consultant, or you can contact Ancestral Quest. They'll help you, give you some instructions. You can take your Ancestral Quest and you can say, I want to synchronize my Ancestral Quest file, and the file you're talking about is your parents' file, with FamilySearch. And then what Ancestral Quest should do is go and find a match for all the people in that Ancestral Quest file and match it to people in Family Tree. Okay? It should do that automatically. Once it's done that, then you have to look at each of the matches. And so you won't be spending time typing stuff, but you'll be spending time comparing things. You'll see both of them, the one from Ancestral Quest, the one in Family Tree, and you'll have to look at it and say, yes, this is the same person, and move that data over if it's new or better or whatever. But I want you to be very careful, because people, most often, if it's older file, an older Ancestral Quest file, we've probably already been given that file, and that file has already been put in Family Tree, because we took everything that all members had submitted to the personal resource file since the beginning in 1995, I think it was. No, 1995. Yeah. And or 1995. I can't remember when it is now. I should know that.
You should.
When FamilySearch, I think it's 1995. And we took all of the PRF data and we put it into Family Tree at the very beginning. So odds are they should all be the same. There may be some new data that people have put on. And so don't automatically assume that your data in the old file is better or correct. You'll have to investigate each one to determine if what you have is more correct than what is already there in Family Tree. But I remind you to be cautious, because there's plenty of people that have been working on these lines, and odds are they've got new hints and new information and updated data. But that way you don't have to type it in by hand. You don't have to go find them each individually in Family Tree. You can just use Ancestor Quest to find them, find the matches. It'll line them all up, and then you can look at the matches and make your determination. So, all righty. I think that we're about done. We have a little tiny one.
Yeah, we do. Karen, she says, how's the pilot program going in Utah County for those temples? Will other Utah temples be testing this pilot out soon? This has been a hot topic.
Yeah, this has been a hot topic, so I guess it's worth talking about. So for those who don't know, because you're living somewhere else, the temple department, in conjunction with FamilySearch, are trying to pilot in Utah County. So in all of the temples of Utah County, so that's Mount Timpanogos and
Provo City,
Provo City
Payson,
Center, Payson, and one more.
Well, Saratoga Springs isn't there
No,
yet.
that's not it. There's 5 of them now.
Oops. It's all right. Anyway.
Whatever. So those temples, and what we're doing is they're not returning the temple card after the ordinance is done. So for example, you come in and you have a card that you printed, has everything on it, and you do the baptism confirmation, then they'll take that card and you won't get it back. And so you have to print another card for the I or the E or things like that. Now, these temples have a process. If you're planning on doing all the ordinances on that card in that one day, then they'll help you do that. But if you're not doing all the ordinances in that single day, then you'll lose the card. Now, that can be frustrating for people, because I've come to realize, I kind of knew it was true, but I come to realize that a lot of people manage their reservation lists by piles of cards. Rather than managing it in the reservation list on the computer, they move stacks of cards. Okay, here's all my baptism ones, and when I get that done, I move it over to the initiatory or the confirmation spot, or I move it over to the initiatory pile. So people are managing their reservation list through cards, And because they're managing them through cards, then when the card's not returned, and now they got a problem because they don't have a card to put in the next pile. And so there's been some frustration and there's been some adjustments, but the main purpose, I want to make sure it's clear, the main reason that this is being piloted is because we want to then, and the most important thing in the temple is to make sure the ordinance gets done and it gets recorded, so that what's recorded on earth is recorded in heaven. And so it's most important that those ordinances get recorded. Now I want to put you into the day of the life of an ordinance recorder in a big temple, Mount Timpanogos or something else. You're sitting there, you have a session, an endowment session every 20 minutes. Okay? Each endowment session can have up to 600 people in it. Okay? 600 people. I think you can sit, or even if it's not, 500 people.
Okay.
I bet you there's like at least 300 on one side, 300 on the other side.
Oh, no.
10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, let's say it's 200.
That's better.
Great, 200. So 200 people do their stuff. Cards are collected at a certain spot in the temple when you're doing endowments. They're put together, and then somebody has to collect them all. Remember, they're collecting them as you come through, and so they don't collect the last card till everyone's through. And by then, some people are down now changing their clothes to leave the temple. And so this temple worker grabs all these things together. They race down to the temple, to the office. They hand a stack of cards to the ordinance recorder, and they begin to start recording the ordinance. Okay, beep, beep, beep. And then by then, it's already been 10 or 15 minutes since the session was done. So after about 5 minutes of beep, 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 all of a sudden another person shows up with another stack of 200 to do. And so, and they start telling the ordinance recorder, you got to hurry.
Yeah,
these people are standing around waiting for their card, and we got to get it on the credenza. So they start doing it faster, and because they're doing faster, then things happen. You know, cards get stuck together, they get missed, they do all that kind of stuff, and it's not because people aren't trying to do the best work they can do. It's just that they don't have the time to do it right. And so there's occasions when ordinances don't get recorded, and then you have to call up and say, hey, this didn't get recorded. Well, the reason for that is because we're causing the temple recorders to race and hurry up. Every day, all day long, for the 6 o'clock session, all the way down to the last 9 o'clock session, they're doing this all day long, just as fast as they can to keep up with it. And so this pilot was to say, okay, we're not going to return the cards. And so that means the cards pile up, no problem. And I'll just efficiently make sure that every card is recorded. And then what they're going to do is when every card is recorded, they'll rubber band them together, probably by session or day or something. And they'll set them aside. And then they'll wait a little while to see how things, if you get one in 3 days, if you don't get a email or a message saying that that's been recorded, then you can call the temple recorder and say, hey, I went 3 days ago and did this endowment and it hasn't been recorded. They'll get your name and find you and make sure it's recorded. Now, even if you don't call, before they get rid of the cards, before they destroy the cards, they're going to re-record every card twice, a second time, just to make double sure that that has been recorded in the system. So 2 recordings for every card. It'll tell them whether it's been recorded already. It'll tell them that. If it tells them that it hadn't been recorded, it'll say it's now recorded for them. And then they'll destroy the cards once they verified they've all been recorded. And what we found, we've been only doing it for a couple months.
Yeah.
The ones that were earliest, like Monticello was the first one that was done in. And we analyzed their data after a month. And they were actually more accurate and faster in getting the cards done. Yeah. And that's because they weren't getting interrupted, right?
Having to stop
and get another pile and all this kind of stuff and try to hurry and be interrupted. And so now they're just being very efficient. They're doing patterns that's easy for them to do and always accurate. And so it's a good thing. The temple decides if any of these will be going out to other temples. It has been done in other temples. The Oakland Temple is currently doing this as well. And there will be a few other temples, and the temple department's deciding how far this will go and how fast it will be if they do them all or not do them all. So I can't tell you whether or not they're going to do everything or when they would do everything, but certainly the most important thing is to get that ordinance recorded properly. And if it means we have to print a card, then we learn new ways to do this and manage our things and get the cards. So imagine if you're using your reservation list. I'd love to hear. You can send me an email, ron@familysearch.org, to understand what we would have to change to the reservation list to make sure it would work for you. Because I'd really like people to just use the reservation list to figure out what's the next things they want to do, and then just select them and print the ones you're going to go to that weekend or next week or something. Print out just those cards you need, go do them, come home, use the reservation list to figure out what's the next thing you want to do. So I need to see where the temple list is not working for you to do that. But that's the purpose. That's the reason. Good question. Plenty of people are wondering about that. The whole motivation is to make it accurate and to reduce stress on the workers and to reduce stress on the patrons, because you're not waiting at a credenza. When is that going to be done? Some of the temples have been waiting. People have been waiting like 45 minutes to an hour waiting to get their cards back.
One time I waited an hour and a half.
An hour and a half for your card back, and that frustrates you too. So you leave the temple, you're already grumpy because you've been sitting there an hour and a half waiting for the card to get done.
Or you get noisy when you're chatting and get after
talking
you.
too much.
Yeah.
So I think it improves reverence. It improves flow in the temple. It allows people to leave after a wonderful session or experience without worrying about the card, and then just print another one. Now I know that there's other costs involved. There's ink, there's paper, little time. The temple said that they will gladly print any cards that you would like to have printed. So you could prepare your reservation list. You could go into the temple and say, I want these particular reservations printed or whatever, these PIDs, and they'll do it for you there. You could, pre-print it in the PDF and go take the code from the PDF and give it to them, or the barcode, and they'll print it for you, so you're not spending the money on the cards and the paper, or the ink and the paper. Okay, there you go. Thank you very much. I appreciate you asking questions. I'm always scared that I'm going to be here for an hour and not have any questions to answer.
Yeah,
So,
well, get busy because we only have 3 right now for next week.
only have 3 questions for next time. So thank you very much. I appreciate you. I love you. You're great people. You do an amazing work. Family history changes lives, and not just those that do it, but those who receive it. And it's no place else you can do it. And this year is going, and I think it's in November, marks the 125th anniversary of the Genealogical Society of Utah. Which basically FamilySearch.
Yeah.
So it's really cool, and the reason why it's survived and doing what it's doing, and the reason why we're fulfilling the Lord's commandments of providing ordinance for His children is because of you and the work you do. So thank you very much for all you do. Once again, you have questions or issues, you can email me at ron, @familysearch.org. And have a good evening, will you? And we'll see you next time. I think we're meeting in 2 weeks.
We should be.
2 Thursdays, in 2 weeks from now, and we'll continue this conversation.
You bet.
Have a good night.
See you then.
All
Bye,
right.
guys.
Bye-bye.